I feel like I'm not ready. I think he's ready, but I'm not ready. And I don't want to be selfish and hold him back.
Sure.
But it is really, really hard.
Hello there. You're listening to the Girl Talk Podcast. My name is Carol.
I'm Kelly.
I'm Tricia.
And we're so glad you've joined us today. We're going to be talking about transitions in motherhood. Dun, dun, dun. And I have noticed something happening. Like, both of you are already, like, misty-eyed, and I'm not.
Yeah, I brought my tissues.
I don't. Maybe you think it's between boys and girls, or maybe I just don't have a heart. I just don't have a heart. That's what it is. Well, let's start. How do you navigate each season? I think the problem here is nobody tells you when it's the last.
Oh,
Well,
right.
Which is probably a good thing.
Right.
Because but that moment of the last would be awful.
You mean like the last time you push your child in a swing, or the last time you go to a park?
For sure. But looking back on all those things, like if you knew that, you're right, if you knew it was the last, you'd be like kicking, screaming, and doing all the things.
Yeah.
But so how are you guys navigating? Because you've got a senior, then you got one coming up behind, coming in hot. I've got an almost senior who has one more year, and then you have a
Junior who's almost a senior.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So
how
we need
y'all
lots
doing?
of support over the next 18 months.
Yeah.
For real.
I'll tell you, it's hard. It's really, really hard because you say you don't know the last, like you don't know the last time that you do get to push your child in the swing, but you do know the last marching band game. You do know the last band concert, the last prom,
Right.
all of those things. And we're preparing to drop him off, and that will be the last time that he is a full-time staying at our house, when we drop him off at college. So these things are happening, and I do want to cry all the time, and I have cried a lot because I feel like I'm not ready. I think he's ready, but I'm not ready. And I don't want to be selfish and hold him back.
Sure.
But it is really, really hard. And as a boy mom, he's not super hands-on, like he doesn't do he'll hug me if I make him,
right?
And I do sometimes make him. You want that Game Boy, you want that Switch, come on in, mama needs a hug. But he's just he's a boy, and he's excited and ready to go, and I just feel like I haven't done everything that I need to do to prepare him to go off into this scary world.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I've chosen just not to think about it.
Yeah.
Because just you like externally processing all of that, it made I want to vomit.
I know.
Like it made my stomach just get all in knots, and the tears well up in my eyes, and it is awful. It is awful. And I for the most part choose just not to think about the transition. I try to in every moment soak up as much of it as I possibly can. There's lots of like my kid will say, "Hey, Mom, can you just sit with me while like yesterday he wanted me just to sit with him while he unpacked his pockets, like the things in his cargo pants." And I'm like, okay.
I'm curious what was in there.
Right? Nothing. I mean, it was like keys and a cell phone, but he said,
Right.
"No, you just sit here while I unpack." And I'm like, "Unpack what?" He said, "My pockets." Okay, we're sitting.
Oh, that's
You're
sweet.
thinking you're gonna have this like deep conversation, like I need to unpack this with
Unpack.
Yes, no, and
it's
it
like
was
no, my
your
pockets.
feelings.
No, it's just my pockets. And so he just wanted me to sit with him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I am going to soak up this moment because it might be the last time that he goes, "Hey, can we just sit here and do normal things, but just sit in each other's presence and be present with each other?" And so I want to soak up as much of those times as possible and not be distracted.
Yeah.
So I really just want to be present. And so I'm trying as hard as I can to be present in each of the times so that the transitions are not as hard as they could be.
Well, sometimes when I'm present, I'm extra anxious. Like if I'm trying to be like, I know, look, we're sitting down together, we're going to a movie together, and I'm like, I feel anxious, and it's not good time because I'm trying so hard to hold on to it. And I think that's part of the battle that I've had this year of not trying to hold on so firmly, but to enjoy and be present without anxiety.
Yeah. How are you doing, Mama? You got
I mean,
So you're in the same situation.
yeah, I mean, I think I'm doing okay. I mean, I think we all are okay until we're not, you know. I mean, definitely I'm kind of in a different situation because she's doing the community college thing. So we've got at least one more year. But, I mean, the only thing I can liken it to, because I remember people saying things to me when she was small and they were like, the days are long, but the years are short. And that is so stinking true. And it seems to me, I don't know if y'all feel this way too, but it seems to me with every year, things speed up.
Yes.
100%.
Yeah.
I think that's true.
And so, I mean, I'm not looking forward to it. And I probably really will struggle with it because I've been a single mom since before she turned 2. So we've had a long time, just me and her, you know, and I think we're going to eventually have to have that question, that conversation of, I'm going to be okay because it's just me and her for so long. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like there's part of me that thinks that she might not go and do her thing because she's afraid of me being by myself.
Sure. Right. Yeah.
And so we need to
about
have
you.
that conversation. I haven't felt comfortable to do that just yet, but
Well, I think that's the important thing for all of us to do. I mean, your situation is unique, but we do have to give our children that freedom to fly. And God's created them for a purpose. He's given them a purpose to have in this life. He's given them a trajectory, and that trajectory does not involve living with us for the rest of their lives.
Right.
It involves them going out and finding what God has planned for them.
Yeah.
And some of that. We have to be able to show to our kids that we are okay with them following God's best for their life.
Yeah, and I think there's part of it too that is the temptation, I especially for moms, because a lot of times our identity is tied up in being a mom to that small person.
Yes.
But I have a friend who's a little farther down the road from me, and her daughter has now graduated from college as an adult doing her own thing, and she continually tells me, she'll be like, the relationship changes, but in such great ways. Yeah. Like, they don't need you like they did when they were 2. However, it is a whole different dynamic and you actually like each other. Because, you know, I mean, if you've had a kid any time at all, you know there are days they don't like you. And there are days you don't like them too much either. I mean, you love them, but,
Right, yes,
but that
it's a struggle.
happens. But I think probably the biggest struggle is not letting our identity be tied up in being a mom to them. And I'm not going to look at you anymore because you're getting teary.
I knew that from the very beginning of this episode I was going to be teary because it's so painful.
Yeah. And
So
why do you
painful.
think that? I mean, let's talk about that. I've been reading this book, so y'all forgive me. But I think so much of my life, this book is saying basically all of our lives we're just trying to push the feelings away.
Yeah.
We're either trying to numb the feelings or push them away or do all the things. And the point that he's making in the book is, what if we just get curious about those feelings? And so I think it's a good exercise for us here. Let's just get curious about that. What do you think your tears are about? What is that part of you that is just feeling emotional right now?
I mean, for me, parenting has been the best thing of my life. You know, it's been the most, it's what I wanted to do. I wanted to have a dozen kids. I had one. And so I get the opportunity to do this one time.
Yeah.
And I want to do it well and I want to do it right. And I look back and I go, there's been so many mistakes I've made that I want to go back and redo. I want to go back and fix. I want to go back and, you know, do things better.
Yeah.
And I'm scared of what's on the other side. I'm scared. I mean, if I'm truly honest, I'm scared of it just being me and my husband and what that means.
Right.
You know, and what life looks like when, in many ways, the thing I've loved the most to do, you know, my favorite job ever is being a mama.
Yeah.
And when that's gone.
Yeah.
So, that's what's behind all of it. And it's the reason I'm in counseling, and it's the reason why I take medicine.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can't talk about this transition without just...
Yeah.
I mean, I can't watch commercials.
Right.
I can't watch a movie about this kind of thing without just boo-hooing. So, obviously, I need to increase my meds.
Oh,
Because I
sweet
can't
girl.
counsel
No,
more
that's
often.
okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
And I think...
Yeah.
I think
Yeah, it is.
we're all at a different place with that, and I can definitely understand. But and I think that is similar to what I was saying about when the time comes for me to say goodbye to my daughter. It's been me and her for so long, and so we're going to do that each on our own, and that is that. I think that's the same thing, just different ways, because
and I know that none of us want to hold our kids back.
Sure.
From God's best for them because of our own emotions, our own tears, our own needs. And that's part of it that's so hard too, is I want you to go and I want you to fly. I mean, like all good parents want their kids to be successful and be in God's best for them. Yeah. And I don't want to be the one that holds him back.
Right. And I think, TK, you were sharing a little of that with me the other day because you were talking about senior pictures coming up, and and you were saying, "Have I done enough?" And I think that's the question we all have to kind of wrestle with, and probably I don't know of anybody that says, "Yes, I've done enough. I've done plenty,"
Oh yeah,
and turns them loose. I think it's. I think that's a universal fear of have we done enough to prepare them?
I could live in regret for so many things. And I think I kind of wish I could cry more easily. I feel like a lot of my emotions are locked up, similar to what you're talking about. We push away feelings. We distract ourselves from feelings. I think I'm afraid to allow myself to feel the sadness about my son graduating and moving on to college and this new place for him, and so I do a lot of distraction to kind of keep myself moving, which creates anxiety. But I'm unfortunately I'm more used to feeling anxious than I am to feeling sad. I tend to move into that more comfortable place.
Well, even that's a way of coping.
It is. Sure. It is. It's this distraction technique, but. I think I didn't do enough. I haven't told him enough. And lately, every time I get a chance, I'm telling him things about when I was in school. And I know he's rolling his eyes, but I pray he's listening.
Yeah.
And this is starting to get me. Yeah. It's so hard because I do feel like that it's all slipping away, like it's slipping through my hands.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've done enough. But I do remember. It was a teaching pastor who said that when we haven't done enough and all the places we've failed, God makes up for them.
Yes.
Yeah.
He won't let our kids fall.
Yeah.
He knows and not surprised that we're not doing all that we should have done, could have done. And he's going to take over and do for them what we haven't done or couldn't do.
Yeah. Because we are not him. I mean, we do not have the ability to be perfect.
I know. I feel like I've matured more over this past year. And I'm like, oh, if I could have some of those years back where I was kind of a mess and I was real selfish. I'm still selfish now, but I feel like I've done better this year, and like I want to go back. Can I press rewind 4 years later, and just do some of it over again?
Well, and after you said that to me, I just really spent some time thinking and kind of praying through, and I did what you did. I went back to my own experience, and I don't think we really can, fully know what our parents were thinking, but I thought about when they dropped me off, and I remember this conversation like it was yesterday. Dorm rooms have changed a lot since I was in college, and so
some of them have,
some of them, right?
Some of them are still the same,
right? And you drop a kid off with a milk crate filled with cassettes or whatever it was for me, and I remember my mom saying, "Do you have everything you need?" Oh. And that became like kind of a jumping off point for me, even at that age, to say, do I have everything that I need? And I started thinking about that in the context of our conversation of have I done enough? There was no way on God's green earth that I could have been prepared for what I was going to go through. There's no way. I mean, I just wasn't. And yet, we all sit here today around microphones. I mean, I had no idea at that point in my life what I would be doing. I still don't have any idea what I'm going to be doing. However,
we haven't grown up yet.
That's exactly right. But to put that in my own journey in the context of my own life, I thought there are things that have shaped me since I've been an adult that my parents could have never prepared me for because they just didn't know, But it helps me to go back and think about that and to think about how unprepared I was and how there were some things that I had to screw up before I realized, oh, this is a mistake and I need to fix this. Or there are some things that I need to release, or there's some things that some areas I need to grow in. All that kind of molding us and making us into the people that we are today. Now I'm still got a long way to go, but I look back on their experience of, dropping me off and saying, do you have everything you need? And the answer was no, I don't. But like you just said, God will give it to me and shape me and mold me into the person that he wants me to be. And he'll do the same thing for our kids too.
Wow, that's really comforting, because you're reminding me, when I was in college, my first year of college, we had a major family trauma, one of the biggest experiences in my life that I never could have been prepared for. My parents could never have prepared me for, but God got me through it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't my parents. They didn't have the ability to protect me from that.
Right.
But God has used it my whole life. And I hadn't thought about that. So you're right. I mean, there is some level of, we talk about trusting God with our kids. We talk a lot about it. But now, in certain of these transitions, and maybe you have a child going to kindergarten, whatever transition it is a little piece of releasing our hands and trusting God's hand in it.
Yeah.
And you're right. That's really comforting to me. My parents couldn't have prepared me for that. That was an only God thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's something really important for us to focus on, because and you said, if I could go back in time, I know more now than I knew then.
Yeah.
So I wish I could go back in time and do things differently. I would, do things differently. I think God gives us knowledge and wisdom for the season that we're in. And he gives us preparation for the season that we're in. And so we don't need to know how to parent a teenager when we're parenting infants. We don't need to know how to parent an adult child when we are parenting a teenager. They are different seasons, and God gives us what we need for that time to be able to do what God has called us to do in the lives of our children for that time. So you may have more wisdom now than you had then, but that's not what God wanted, or God would have given you that wisdom then.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
It's very true.
And I think, maybe I'm wrong about this, but I think the advances in technology have, even though they were designed to make us more in contact with our kids, that has made us only more anxious. Let me give you a case in point. I was thinking about this one night because I was really nervous after my daughter got her license. I was just really anxious about it, and I was just thinking about it a lot. And I was like, is she going to be okay? And I, got on Live 360. Like, she's going 24 miles an hour, And
only 24 miles an hour.
Well, it was probably a 20 mile an hour zone. But anyway,
restaurant strip.
Exactly. And so the Lord actually brought this to my mind. I was just praying, Lord, keep her safe, keep her safe, keep her safe. And the first time you watch, if you've got toddlers or babies at home, the first time you watch them drive out of the driveway, it's like, what in the world just happened? But anyway, she was driving, and the Lord said, "Hey, Carol, do you remember when you were in college?" And I was like, "That's a silly memory." Yes, I remember when I was. It's not been that long, Lord. But He said, "Remember that there was one phone on the hallway, and you had to count on somebody to, number one, answer that phone, be smart enough to walk down to your room and knock on your door and say, there's a telephone call for you. And if you weren't there, to leave a message on said door for you."
Yeah, like a little whiteboard.
Right? Right? Like, you think your parents didn't worry about you? Of course they did, And I think technology has made us more paranoid about those kind of things. I mean, great, it's good to know where our kids are, but remember back to a time where technology wasn't that
get you at all.
No, not at
That's
all.
right.
Yeah. They didn't know where you were, or what you were doing, or how fast you were driving.
No, 100%. And we
made it through.
I take some great comfort in those kinds of things, and looking back to my own experience and translating that into. Now, there's a lot of mistakes that I made, and I think I'm more. My parents grew up in the generation where they weren't very open about their own lives. For instance, that you just didn't hear them talk a whole lot about it. And I don't think there was anything wrong with it. It just wasn't the culture.
They didn't
then.
talk a lot about their feelings or any of that.
For sure. And so I didn't grow up that way. And that I feel a certain comfort level in talking about those things with my kid that I would have never talked with my mom and dad about, just because that wasn't the way they were. It wasn't bad or wrong, but it was just different. And so I'm very much more open about the mistakes that I made in my past with my daughter than my mom and dad ever were with me. And I think that whole dynamic changes the relationship and like prepares you for what's next. And what I mean by that is there's a point in time where people are like, okay, you just got to get through the teenage years, and then they become an adult and you actually are friends with them and you enjoy that, and we're all holding out for that. But sometimes somebody needs to remind you that that's actually where you get to, right?
Yeah.
Like that you're not in charge of their choices anymore. You just get to be their friend.
Yeah.
If your child is 12, now is not that time. They don't need another friend. They need a parent.
But every season, though, does bring its own joys, its own challenges.
Sure.
You know, that 12-year-old and, the things that they will do with you, the time and attention that they'll give you, the ways you can, still kind of walk them through life is precious also. So there's each moment, even that infant, that baby, newborn baby that is screaming its head off at 3 o'clock in the morning, and you are so exhausted. Mama, this season is short. But it's also, it's precious, and you will get through it. And there'll be another precious, amazing things about the next season as well.
I learned a lesson from my sister this past few months. That they will still need us. No matter where they are, they need you, right? No matter if the infant all the way up to the adult child, they still need you. And sometimes in the mind we think, oh, once they go off to college, they've sort of launched and they're on their own. Well, my nephew had a health emergency.
Sure.
And everything stopped. And I watched my sister leave everything and be a mom again to her child who was a senior in college and having to go meet all of his needs for him. And so it changes, but they still need us.
Yeah.
And there's comfort in that, especially if it's if it's the best job you've ever had or the hardest job you've ever had, all of the above. They're still going to need us. So that is important to remember and can give some hope.
Yeah. For sure.
We're still important.
Yeah.
And hopefully they'll call us and ask for advice.
Yes.
You know, and then hopefully they'll give us grandkids. And then they can plop those grandkids in, and then we can start the process over again.
That's right.
We get a chance to be perfect at that point.
That's
Perfect
right.
grandparents.
Yeah, because then we don't have to change diapers
That's right.
do all the things. We can give them cookies. That's what my
Yes.
grandmother always used to
Yeah.
do, is give us cookies. So,
Yeah.
yeah. My mom does that with my kid.
Yeah.
There's always a cookie jar. If you want cookies,
Absolutely.
it's where you go.
Yeah. So, how can we prepare for what's next? I think, part of what we've touched on here is is realizing that it's going to change, but that doesn't necessarily have to be bad. And allowing yourself to feel those feelings. I mean, that is a very real part and a very real struggle, not allowing those feelings to rule your life, but acknowledging them certainly is part of the journey. And what else would you add to the list?
I mean, I think part of it is remembering what the ultimate goal is. Our goal is to raise godly children who give their lives to the Lord, who want to follow in whatever path God's created for them. And we want to launch them into being responsible, kind, compassionate adults. And that means launching them.
Yeah.
And so they have to go into adulthood. They get to have a life. They get to live a life like we have gotten to live. And so that's the goal. The goal is to help them find God's best for them and then send them into it.
Yeah. And I think that also one of the things that I want to just mention here, because we hear from a lot of folks who have adult children who aren't walking with the Lord, who who struggle with that. And that's very real as well. But you do raise them to make their own decisions, and then you have to turn loose of that.
Yes.
You have to turn loose of
Trust God with them.
Trust God with them, and allow them to make those decisions. And sometimes, I mean, I'm just going to be honest. Sometimes I learned more from falling flat on my face than I did from succeeding at the things that I was good at.
Yeah.
And I think we have to be okay with that. Now,
Yes.
I realize what you're going to say. Well, you don't have adult kids yet, and you're right. But once they launch into the world to do whatever, we have to relinquish control, because sometimes that can be as debilitating as trying to control them when they're 13.
Right. Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I just think we need to mention that, because I know we have a lot of people who reach out and will ask us to pray for adult children. But here's the thing. Did you guys always walk with the Lord and do the right thing?
No.
I didn't either.
No.
And yet we're sitting around these microphones today with the opportunity that we have. And so I just say that in terms of, if you're a mom or a dad who has a wayward adult child, don't give up on them. Continue to pray. I am convinced that I'm sitting here today because of praying mamas and daddies and grandmothers and Sunday school teachers and people who continue to pour into me through the years, and that is the only reason that I'm here today. So I just say that because I think it's important for us to mention, once they graduate from college or get married or do whatever, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to do exactly what we want for them to do, even though we think we know what's best.
Right. Or what God wants.
We're not God.
Right. Or even what God, they're not going to do what God wants them to do all the time either. And that is definitely a reality.
Yeah. I go back to this analogy all the time, because a friend of mine told me I guess my daughter was 8 or 9 years old, and she was trying to learn to skate. And this friend of mine said the wisest thing that I've ever been told about parenting. She said, "Carol, your job isn't to teach her how to skate, it's to teach her how to fall." Ooh. And she meant it in the terms of skating, because if you learn how to fall and not get hurt, then you're going to eventually learn how to skate. And our job in life isn't to teach them how to do life, it's to teach them how to fall, because when they do fall, which they will, because they're fallen people just like us, how to get back up and how to stay close to God even in those times. So,
and how to avoid the holes.
Yes.
And not fall into them. Don't go through the potholes.
If you can avoid it.
If you can avoid the potholes.
Yes, if you can avoid the potholes or the cracks in life.
That's
the
right.
cracks in the asphalt as you're skating down life's road. Avoid them. And here's how to avoid them.
I've never been able to avoid one. I hit them all, so I'm very good at that.
I have a scar on my knee from that, actually.
There you go.
It's the biggest scar on my body is from skating and falling on my face.
Yes.
Or on my knees, in this case.
I've been telling my kids some about the mistakes I made in college recently, and my mom never said anything like that to me. Maybe because she never made any. Yeah. Because she was good like that. But I have been
she no doubt made
mistakes.
Maybe not the ones I made.
Right.
Well, but regardless, I've been embarrassingly open about some of that stuff, so that it's a pothole that maybe they can miss.
Right.
Or if they hit it, they'll go, "Oh, I remember Mom talking about that."
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I think that builds relationship. That opens up a door of vulnerability for them to come to you when they do fall.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And Mom's been through this. Mom can help me figure out how to get on the other side of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good tactic. I like that, TK.
It's been
it's hard. I know.
Possibly jarring, but
Yes.
But you also asked one other thing I wanted to mention, like what can we do as we're going through this? How do we prepare? Get support.
Yeah.
I found it so helpful to talk to people who understand.
Yeah.
And even this conversation is helpful because it is very emotional. And we need people to remind us of truth in these moments, so that we don't just sink into feeling and letting feelings kind of pull us in the wrong direction.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hey, if you're raising a little person and you've got ideas or strategies that you use in life to kind of navigate whatever season you're in, we'd love to hear from you. If you've got grown children, the important thing is,
we really want to hear from you.
Yeah, we
that's
really
where
want
we're
to hear
going.
That's exactly right. The important thing is we want to continue to glorify Christ in our parenting in every phase. But we're all going to make mistakes. We're all going to fall down, and we're all going to do things that we're not proud of. And so this is a place where you can request prayer. You can tell us what's worked for you. We'd love to hear from you. You can email us at girltalk@thelightfm.org, or you can get in touch on the Facebook page. And hey, while you're here, if you'd like to share this with a friend, that sure would mean a lot to us, because the way that other people find out about the Girl Talk podcast is because you like and subscribe and share it with your friends, leave us a review. All those things help us to get Jesus in front of more people. So we'd be totally grateful if you'd do that for us. And you know what? We're going to save you a seat next time we gather around these microphones for the next Girl Talk podcast.